Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Watch Club. My name is Peter, and on today's episode, we are reviewing Madoka Magica plus the sequel movie Rebellion. Joining me today is our lovely co-host. First, let's get it out of the way. Kat. Kat, how is it going today? You're
Mike's
muted.
muted.
You're muted.
Mike's muted. Thankfully, it's muted, but please just continue. Try again.
Give me a second.
Okay.
Okay.
Another club member that we have joining us today is Happy. Happy, how's it going?
Is this the real life? Is this fantasy? Caught in a landslide to escape from low battery.
Wow. All right. Thank you for that. Happy.
Poetic.
Joining us today is the greatest anime rapper of all time, Haz. Haz, how's it going?
Anime sucks.
All right.
It's in.
Kat, you good? Kat's still writing something, so we'll go to our moderators. First, we have Pat. Pat, how's it going today?
It's good. You can actually see me. Apparently, you can't see me as well as I think you can see me, but we're working on that. At least the webcam works today.
Yes.
Yeah, hello, motherfuckers. Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready to go.
I'll take 240 Pat over pixelated Frozen Pat.
Yeah,
and
me
our
too.
other moderator for today is Miles. Miles, how's it going?
I used my one wish to be a co-host of an anime podcast, and we can see how that fucking went for me.
Clever.
Okay, I'm ready
All
now.
right, and that's it. That's all of our members. We have nobody.
No, you fucking-
And Kat, how's it going today?
Can the laws of entropy change my sexual urges to have coitus with a tailpipe to a god?
I don't know. Those are questions I do not answer, do not have, but I do have answers and questions and discussion topics for Madoka Magica plus Rebellion. So, as we discuss, I'm gonna pass it off to our moderators Pat and Miles as we jump into probably the most misleading cover art of all time, Madoka Magica.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna let Miles lead the way. This was his nomination and a show that he has been raving about for forever, it seems like. But I do have to say, thank God, Kat is not a teenage-aged magical girl, because who knows what the hell would happen if that was the case. I'd be terrified of the situation that we'd be getting ourselves into. But anyways, Miles, please take it away. Let's get started.
Cat's witch form was the one with the panties, where it was the upskirt.
Of course it was.
Yes!
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the magical girl genre. I really like Madoka Magica a whole lot. It was the first magical girl show I saw, when I was getting into anime, besides various Sailor Moon episodes with the bad English for kids dub, back when I was like 8 or whatever. I guess, for my initial thoughts and stuff, we'll go around, but just real quick, I'm a huge fan, so everything you hear from me is going to be biased by the fact that I absolutely adore this show. But let's hear from Kat. What were your thoughts going into it? Your initial impressions and stuff. Let's say your initial thoughts and your thoughts post episode 3. Let's hear those.
So my initial thoughts were, oh my god, I'm gonna have to watch this shit. And I have been mentally preparing myself. I had been mentally preparing myself for days. And 12, like what? Probably about an hour ago. So, it's still fresh in my mind. That's a good thing. But like, after episode 3, I had more questions and I was more intrigued by the world of Madoka Magica. Like, I wanted to, like, I saw a lot of the technology that they had, and I wanted, like, a lot of it was kind of close to, it looked like if our technology that we have right now, like, was probably like 10 years in the future, and that really intrigued me a lot more than the show itself. So I was kind of like, let's see, maybe if I can maybe if we tweak NFC sensors a lot more, we can have some stuff like this. And maybe like if things open up a lot more, we can have like those standing desks and have them like convert from standing desks to regular desks at a moment's notice from like a button or something, or like from a press of our phones or something. Like I was really intrigued by that, but
Okay.
I really didn't care about any of the characters.
Okay, so character arcs and magic, no. Office technology in 10 years, yes. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Taz, what were your thoughts?
Oh, there it goes.
I watched this a while ago, and honestly, when I was going into it, you know me, I like edgy shit, and I had been told that Madoka Magica was really dark and shit, which I think there's gonna be where me and Miles probably have a different take on this series as a whole. I I was enjoying it, but I don't think for me personally it was hitting the way that it would hit for someone who maybe like was more into the magical girl genre, because I feel like for me a lot of what Madoka Magica brings to the table, that I would like from it, which would be the dark edgy elements, are in other shows, and when I get magical girl vibes now because of things like Recreator and Magical Girl Sight, which I know you don't like, I'm just used to magical girls being this really dark thing, and it may be this dark thing in like in Sailor Moon and older magical girl shows, but I feel like it brings a subversion to the genre, that's what it attempts to do. But for me now, knowing the anime that I do, it doesn't hit quite as much, but it's still an enjoyable watch.
Okay, awesome. We're going to definitely talk about our thoughts of if it's the subversive or not later. I think that the movie is. I think the show isn't. Happy, go.
All right, so I saw this show once back in college, and then I just kind of left it for a few years other than rewatching certain episodes. So my opinion it kind of dwindled over the years, and I'm kind of glad I watched it now because I understand why it's such a good show, but I also understand why I let it sit for so long, because as good as it is, it's not going to be to everyone's liking, I feel.
Okay.
That's it.
That's honestly, I appreciate the short quick
and
take.
sweet.
It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
wait.
Okay, Pete, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Happy on this one, where like initially the genre of magical girls like doesn't really strike me. This is still to this day probably the only magical girl show that I watch, so I definitely procrastinated in terms of watching it, but I'll just put it this way, I'm really glad I watched it. I think this is a very unique show, and especially with not just like the story, but along with like technical aspects like animation and directing and art. I think it's very unique. I think only we might get into this, but like Shaft as the studio, I think they're like the only ones who could have done this show, and it's something that I really like appreciate. And just artistically, the show is great. I loved it. I was hooked the first episode I watched it.
Awesome. And finally, our fearless leader, Pat. What were your thoughts?
Okay, so I have never really seen a magical girl show other than Kill la Kill, and even that's debatable. I've seen an episode or two of Sailor Moon, but it's not something I necessarily would go out of my way to watch. So going in though, I was excited because again, the whole point of this show, the reason why Miles and I wanted to do it was to watch shows that we normally or otherwise would not have watched, and this is definitely one of those shows. It's probably one of the first shows that we've watched in this series that I wouldn't have watched otherwise, so I'm glad that we did. I enjoyed it. There are things that I didn't like about it, but I thought that the characters were consistent throughout with their decision making, which I really appreciated, because in a lot of shows it is not a consistent thing, and they were all interesting. They all had their own struggles, and I thought it did. Again, I don't know the genre very well, but I think it did the magical girl ideas extremely well, especially in the show. The movie kind of lost me a little bit, but the show I was very interested in, and I binged it all in one sitting, which might have changed my opinion of it. But even then, I think even without that, I liked it a lot, and I could not stop watching it.
Awesome. That's good to hear. So, we'll definitely get into like the differences between the movie and the show, because I think that my first time watching the movie, I was with you. I had it ranked lower than the show initially, but I think I might be bumping that up. But I guess like first I want to talk about like the general themes of the show. So the genre in general, but I think also specifically Madoka in a lot of ways, sort of deals with isolation and like loneliness, but also it has a lot to do with hope and friendship. Those are like the core things that are battling each other in Madoka and Magical Girls in general. How do y'all think that the show dealt with that? Each character had their own struggles with these sorts of things. And were there any ones you liked, ones you didn't like? Things that you thought could have been improved about these, like how it just tried to display its themes or anything like that.
I'll start. I think that's like the whole point of who Kyubey chose as magical girls were people who are either in like really tough situations. It ranges from like emotional states to like literal physical states, because I think it was Mommy who's like in the car accident.
Yes.
Yep.
And then you see there's like flashbacks as well of like, I think there's like a witch, a witch. Let me put that in like quotations, because this is like the flashback that they had. They had like people like maybe if they're like poor, but then you have somebody like Sayaka who is like emotionally destroyed from like her love interest is like, he can't play the violin anymore, so he's not happy. So she uses like what she thinks is like a selfish wish, I'll put it that way, into like helping him. And so the characters each have like their own struggle, and I really enjoyed that aspect of picking the characters, and like the underlying theme of like the magical girl Power Rangers that they are is that they all have some form of like suffrage. So I was a big fan of that.
I agree. I liked the ways that they showed how you can have not only emotional pain but also literal physical pain or problems. Like I thought that was very interesting. So and I guess we'll probably talk about this later about choice, because I feel like that's a very specific theme as well that
Yes.
I am probably gonna disagree with Miles on. I think that this is where in our show discussion we were starting to disagree on, but beyond that, I found it very interesting how Madoka, the girl who seems to have such a perfect life, like they're showing it, a loving family, a beautiful, perfect family, great
She
life,
still like lives in a mansion.
yeah, well, yeah, I don't even necessarily mean it in like a wealthy sense, but
Sure.
yeah. So that's part of it though, is having money, not having to worry about money, having a family that loves her, having friends that are close and care about each other. Like, I think it was interesting using her as the main character, considering theoretically she shouldn't need to become a magical girl to become happy. And I guess you could argue at the end of the show she doesn't really feel the need to be a magical girl to be happy. She just wants everyone else to be happy as well. So I don't know if anyone else agreed with me on that.
She's so bland, though.
Well, I don't. But like that's. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's bland. I think one, she is bland because of the circumstances around the show, and I think this is like really well juxtaposed in episode 10, when you see the flashback for Homura when she first comes in, and she's all shy and stuff, and you see how energetic and sort of extroverted Madoka is in that situation. And that's not really the case in the current timeline, but a lot of that is because Homura has been cultivating a situation where Madoka stays away from people as much as possible, doesn't become a magical girl, doesn't
stays away from Kyubey specifically as much as possible.
And like so she doesn't have like a friend group as much, or like not a friend group, but like she isn't as outgoing or interesting because she doesn't have the qualities forged that made Homura like her in the first place, which is sort of a little ironic in my opinion. But
it's not just that her home life is like normal, quote unquote. It's also that she seems like such a black and white character in a world of immense gray that it kind of I do like the show, guys, by the way.
That's okay. You know, it's fine. It's not above criticism. But it is, so be nice to it.
It's not above criticism at all, so please lay into it. Happy, I'll back you up.
Oh, well, Happy, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm done for now. Keep going.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead, Kat.
So with the themes that I saw, like I just really couldn't. Like, I really liked it, but like uh, the moral scale, I guess you could say, between like having the having the food source, which was humans and like their emotions, and them becoming witches and magical girls and like all that, like y'all already know. But and having Kyubey and the incubators like working to secure a future for the universe. Uh, like I liked that, but at the same time, I was just like, but as a creature that can communicate with humans, the fact that you don't have emotions is kind of odd to me. Like this is more like a personal thing, like me having uh me applying real world like logic into anime world where things are fucking weird, and I it was just hard for me to kind of think of it's hard for me to set aside my disbelief
So
in first place.
I can agree. One of my biggest criticisms or thoughts that left me not liking the show as much while I was watching it was definitely QB as a character, and the logic that they tried to use for why like I don't feel emotions, I don't feel love, I don't understand what you humans are doing. They're so they parade his race, the incubators, as so intelligent or so like existential, I guess, almost that they've created this situation, right? Like they've literally created a situation where they're uh, using humans as livestock, essentially. Um, I don't understand how they can't figure out emotion. I guess that's the whole, oh, what makes us
I
human,
mean, it's like
right?
a
Like that's
Vulcan,
the
right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Like,
you're trying to apply logic to like
it,
something that doesn't
I
have logic,
I get that, but that's where
or
I
too
started
much
to
logic. I guess if we're using
too much. I guess too
Vulcans.
much logic. Yeah, that's where I just got lost though, because I felt like up until that point, most of the show had at least stayed within some sort of realm of logic
well,
or
I feel like the lot. I mean, I don't know. It's otherworldly. It's alien, but that's the intention, right? It's
Mhm.
a species that is sentient and intelligent like us, but they don't have emotions. It's like they're not a like. And
They're a
we
hive
talked about
mind.
this, right? You even talked about how Sayaka shouldn't have been so upset about, her body and soul being separated like they
yeah,
were,
I
right?
still will stand by that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
that's
and
where I,
that's fine. I think that like if you're looking at it from like an upward point of view, and you're not like a 13-year-old girl that just had that
yeah,
happen to, it's
fair
like,
enough.
yeah, like I agree that like logically it makes sense, but so does Kyubey. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
you know, but I think where Sayaka comes from also makes sense, where it's like, like holy, like what, like people feel autonomy over their bodies, and having it sort of be like, well, actually, that's just sort of this vessel you're in now. Like that's not even you anymore, really. It's more of your car. Um,
So is it not really you, or but it's still your body. It's
uh,
still
but
that's
it's
where
not.
I get it gets that's where
I
this gets
mean,
lost on me. It's like, oh yeah, so in like a literal sense, it's not your body anymore, right? It's the vessel for your soul, but it's still what guided your soul before this decision that you willingly made,
well,
that
without knowing the terms, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's like a Faustian bargain.
you were warned though of some of the negatives, and that and I believe also at that point Homura had told them not to take the deal, right? That nothing good will come from this, and that's where I get it. You can't not in her situation, you can't not take it, right? She had to decide to become a magical girl. I just I struggle to understand how just because she feels like it's not her body anymore, she feels like, oh well, I can't talk to the guy I like anymore. That's where I got lost because what's her name? The girl who, um,
Kyoko or Hitomi are the ones that I feel like.
Hitomi.
Okay.
Hitomi. So Hitomi came up to her and told her straight up, like, hey, I'm gonna talk to, uh, guy, whatever the guy's name is,
Kyosuke.
Kyosuke. I'm gonna tell him I love him. I don't know if you actually like him or not. This is your moment to tell me if you do, or to go tell him that you do, but I'm going to tell him I love him after tomorrow. And I think what bothered me was Sayaka uses her not having that body as an excuse to not actually own up to her feelings for that guy. So I think
I
I don't understand how you can just decide if you either love that guy enough that, okay, even if it doesn't, you don't think it's your body anymore, you still love, right? You still have that emotion driving you. You should still want to be with that guy, and he should want to be with you, even if you do end up telling him what what's the deal with your body now. I think you should still want to talk to him, and still, if you actually do love him enough.
yeah,
And yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's looking. Ironically, I think you're looking at it like an incubator would look at it, right? Like I think that,
Yup.
See, oh well,
yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, I mean, all of this takes place over the course of like 2 or 3 days for Sayaka. It's not very long. She finds out what's going on. She's disgusted with herself. She doesn't view herself as human anymore, and like. Maybe that's something she could get over in the long run. But, Homura, the super duper logical one, also doesn't view herself as human anymore. So, I think that, you have like a 12-hour clock. You just found out this like really weird thing about yourself, and it's like really jarring to you. You also know that your entire life is now like dedicated to this one cause and everything. It's like, can you even date someone really? Because every night you have to go out and hunt witches, or to like survive because you made this deal. There's just a lot of stuff going on. I feel like I don't think it was just the fact that she was a zombie, as they call it, but I think that was definitely a factor. And I mean, I understand that she views her body as like a point of disgust now. She talks about how like if he's holding her body, it's not even really her anymore, and I understand you don't get that logic, but I think that if you had your soul literally, move 100 feet for your body, it just falls limp like a little meat sack. That could be pretty jarring of an experience.
so for me, what kind of like got me, and I forget, and this is more like me trying to find interesting things about the show when I wasn't really interested in the show. So I don't remember what. I think it was episode like five or six, when Madoka throws Sayaka's
Episode 6.
Yeah, when Madoka throws Sayaka's like basically soul out of the like away from her hand, and when Kyubey explains what their soul is, I'm just like, because he basically said like we take your nervous system out and put it into this. And like and then like when you just have it with you, like it's basically like having a remote control. Like I was like, yo, if we could actually do that, that'd be cool as shit. And that was my only thought.
Okay,
like,
so Kat is looking at the practicality of being able
Yeah.
to remove someone's soul from their body,
Yeah.
and how we can use that. Maybe we can use the pain-numbing stuff Sayaka had to use to fight witches for dentist appointments.
yes.
So, Pete or anyone, do you have any thoughts on? Well, Pete talked about the isolation
Yeah,
first,
let
but
Haz
do you have any
talk.
thoughts on that?
The themes of the show and how they tackled them. That was what we were talking about, right?
Yes.
I thought it was. And we're talking about whole series and the movie included. I think the main series is a lot more on the. It's a lot easier to follow. A lot more on the nose, especially with things like the soul corruption and with the magic use and turning into a witch. I think Rebellion handles it a bit better, or at least in a more interesting way. And it's odd to see so many characters who are going through all these different things, and then you have Madoka, like Happy said, but I think it serves as a way to move along certain characters' personalities, because I feel like while like Madoka, when you this is, I don't want to sound like a righteous stuck up asshole, but like when you're in the gray so long and you don't acknowledge the black and white, like you're not really progressing as a person. And I feel like because of that, like what was it? What was the red haired girl name?
Kyoko.
Kyoka and like Homura, they're like great examples of like they changed, and especially in Rebellion, right? Like maybe not at the end of the main series with Kyoka, but like when you see them again in Rebellion, like they're completely different people, and I think it's because of the way that Madoka was introduced as like this black and white person. I realized I didn't touch on the isolation because I don't have much to talk about that there. I think it did a pretty good job, but it was on the nose, so yeah.
That's I guess like talking about friendship and stuff too. I think like one of the things that Rebellion specifically tries to subvert is the power of friendship being sort of a good thing, because like Homura at the end sort of uses the power of friendship to trap everyone in a world of her own creating, and so it sort of does the whole like, what if you really did value friendship over everything else? What would that look like, type of thing? And it would look like someone putting the entire universe at stake to let their friend have a happy little life.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say about that.
Okay. I don't know if anyone had any thoughts about that. Okay. So I guess we'll probably get more into themes and stuff as we talk about more of like the characters and everything, but let's talk about the art style for a little bit. Did you guys like the art style? Did you like the distinction between like the labyrinths and the real world? And then in Rebellion, did you like how the art style progressively changed as Homura's mental state sort of deteriorated in her soul gem? What were your thoughts on that?
So just to like, I want to go first, but like I didn't watch Rebellion, so.
Oh, okay.
But for the series,
spoiler alert, Cat, by the way. For Rebellion going forward.
Like, man, with art style and just regular Madoka Magica, it was kind of, to me, the best way to explain it would be Monogatari downgraded. That's kind of like my thoughts on it. Like, it was just kind of like, instead of Monogatari where it had the odd shots and like it made these interesting movements, it was more like it wanted to be a normal-ish anime, and then it added in the fucking neck and like shit. And I'm just like, okay, you could either choose to be more off, like Monogatari off, and be good at that, or choose to be more normal, but you don't choose to be in between, because it wasn't working for me. Like,
so like, I mean, I don't know if it was normal. Like, like every labyrinth sequence was like animated completely.
Do you mean like normal, like when they're in school or something?
Labyrinth sequences. The labyrinth sequences for me were amazing. Like, it was the more mundane one. Like, it was a more like
the directional decisions.
No, like in between the conversational points, like when there's more drama and going into like when they're talking, the dramatic.
Oh, okay. So like how it would show the shadows on the sidewalk walking while conversations are happening and like stuff like that.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that like that part of it definitely wasn't up to par with Monogatari, but to be honest, I don't think a lot is up to par with Monogatari when that sort of stuff is happening. I mean, the emulation is definitely there, but No, I would agree with that.
Let me counterpoint because I'm literally the exact opposite of Kat. I think in terms of like art style, animation, directing, everything, this is literally one of the best animes I've ever seen in terms of that stuff. You see it in Rebellion with the fight between like Mami and Homura. I thought like the direct and art style was absolutely incredible. Like how they paced everything together in that fight was god tier. Like
Best fight in anime.
the only thing I can even compare it to is the Mob Psycho season 2 fight. I'm probably the only one who's seen it, but like that like direct style is like one of the best like fights in anime, and I thought like, holy shit, like this is insane. Like I thought
It's so good.
and I love how like every single witch is unique. Every single time they enter into a new like soul gem or labyrinth or witch fight, it's completely different from the other one. Like it's in the same style.
You learn about the girl too.
Yeah, I'd say it's like the style is similar because they're all wacky. I'll put it that way, but like it's so unique compared to every single one. I love it. If I like art's a 10, animation's a 10, directing's a 10. Genius, perfect. I love it.
The fight. Oh, go.
So sorry.
Continue.
So I would
Happy.
say the animation is good, but it's definitely not like Monogatari. They're different. I would say they're different. One's not better than the other. They're just different animation styles.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree because just because like maybe Monogatari aesthetically looks maybe more appealing, like it doesn't mean it's like a better like animated show. Like you could probably say like Demon Slayer is the best animated show of all time because it looks the prettiest. Like but that's like not necessarily how I view like animation. It's like the whole thing combined into one, and how they piece everything together is why I just think like Madoka's like art style, direction, all that jazz is flawless.
I'm just gonna say it's okay to be wrong. Madoka Magica slaps way harder than Bakemonogatari on the visual elements, and it's for me at least. It finds a way to see. I think the main difference for it, at least to me, is that Bakemonogatari is as we discussed the show, where dialogue was really important. And I feel like certain things like that you guys enjoyed that kind of contribute to someone like me being confused during the show. Like all the cutaways that had like words flashing for like half a second and things like that, right? Like it's cool for the show in a way, but it can also be detrimental. Where I feel like here the storytelling throughout the animation, with like the scene in Rebellion where Homura and Madoka are in the and Madoka's telling Homura she would never, or fake Madoka I guess, is telling Homura she would never leave them because that would break her heart or whatever, and like the grass is like the flowers get darker as like Homura
As
is
the mood
like
changes, yeah.
listening, and then it turns into like all the leaves die, and then like the light comes up and then it falls back. Like that's beautiful, and it helps tell the story without overwhelming you, because you can. Whereas Bakemonogatari, the style that they chose and how they chose to direct it, it just fucked with the storytelling to me. Whereas this is real subtle, but it's still clear.
The streets are hot in New York tonight.
Yep.
I think for me it was just the fact that I didn't watch Rebellion. Like if I went back and watched Rebellion now, my opinion probably would have changed. But I gotta prepare like another week for fucking 2-hour anime.
Yeah, Rebellion I think is definitely better animated than the show, especially the fight scenes.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Even like you said, the fight scenes especially are better animated. So for me, it's weird though. It seems we either love the animation or we hate it, or well, maybe not hated it, but really didn't like it or didn't think it was that great. I think I'm gonna be right in the middle, where I'm sitting here thinking about while I was watching it, and I was like, well, the lines are different, but it's nothing that bothers me that much. Like the characters, they don't look like your normal anime character, but they all looked. It had its own style, right, where you could appreciate it. That's how I felt about it. I also felt like all the labyrinths were very interesting, and if you went back and watched it 10 times, you could find something different, some sort of symbolism or something different in each labyrinth and each section of the labyrinth, whatever you want to say. So I thought that was cool. I didn't love it, either. I thought it was distracting at times. I thought it was very random or expecting too much of someone trying to watch it to really pick up. But at the same time, like I can't say it was bad. Like I thought, that's where I sit with the animation, at least, where it's like I can appreciate that it was good, but I didn't necessarily love it as much as other people might have, I guess.
And let's
So-
not forget the almighty head tilt.
Oh yeah, it's Shaft. You have to have the head tilt.
Studio
I know.
neck.
That's the joke.
Studio neck.
That's the joke.
Now I will say this. So honestly, for me in the show, probably my favorite like animated scene was when what was her name? Mimi or
Mommy?
Mommy? Yeah. Basically when she gets eaten, like that stopped me for a second. Like you got to understand, I was looking at the show and like looking back at Discord and looking at the show and looking back at my phone. I was just kind of like I wasn't really into it. And then like I've had the spoilers of Madoka Magica episode 3 and I'm just like,
Yep.
okay. And then I looked at and then looking at episode 3, I'm just like, okay, something's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna die. And then Has had to say, "Oh, mommy dies," and I'm like, God damn it. And then I'm like, okay, so
He did
how did she
spoiler
die?
it.
Yeah, I know, but like you
He
can't
did
tell what a
spoiler it,
spoiler
but,
is
like-
on Discord without clicking on it.
Well,
You can't
yeah, it was in our channel for discussing
You
Madoka
gotta understand,
Magica.
I'm
It's
used
spoiler.
to spoilering bad shit. Like I'm
Well,
used
no,
to spoiling.
We use the spoiler takers. That's on
fair to
you.
get mad at Has. We shouldn't be getting mad at Has for it. To be fair,
No,
but it would be nice if you
I'm
put.
mad at myself.
But it'd
mad
be
at
nice if
myself.
you put like, oh, spoiler for the show rather than just a random spoiler. Like I don't remember what we were talking about, but I don't think
We
it
were
was
midway
specifically-
talking about the show.
I
Like,
know.
We were talking about this show.
the
It's on me, but like
Yeah.
when I saw it, I was like, God damn it! And then I was like, okay, so how did she die? And I was expecting her to like get shot or like something. I wasn't expecting like this. Like I wasn't this way. I wasn't expecting it to be so well animated after she gets fucking eaten, picked up, dropped, and then eaten again. Like I was not expecting that. I was like, oh, so she dead.
I love that
She
whole
did.
sequence where it has like the whole like we'll be friends forever thing.
Yeah.
The heroic music starts playing. Mommy runs in there and starts kicking ass. And it's like,
And then she died.
yeah, she's like, I'll never be alone again, and then immediately gets her head
Chomp.
bit off. Just
You know what that reminds me of?
Go ahead.
What?
You know in Evangelion when the end of Evangelion when
Oh,
Asuka,
No, I don't know. I don't know.
okay. Wait for the people who haven't watched a necessary part of the series to mute themselves. No,
Oh.
it's
All right,
not.
headphones are off.
Okay, go.
So you know in Evangelion, the end of Evangelion when Asuka's in Unit 2, and
Yes.
then she realizes that, oh, my mom, she's really been here all along, and then she like wrecks the emissaries, and then like one of them like pierces her eye, and then
Oh,
she
yep.
gets like her unit gets like torn to shreds and stuff. Yeah, I actually just thought of that. I'm like, oh, that sounds very familiar.
It's very similar, right? Where she's like has this inspirational moment, and then then she gets her ass handed to her, right? Like, after she does that. Okay, good comparison.
All right, put my headset back on.
Okay, I've seen Evangelion, but not End of Evangelion.
So,
Yeah,
anyways,
so-
that's
so,
how
yeah.
Bambi
No
plays
spoiler.
a
I
big
made it
role
this
at the
far.
end of Evangelion.
Oh wow!
What?
What?
God
Oh,
damn it!
wait, what? Oh man! You're blowing my
You're telling me
mind.
Shinji's the main character in Evangelion? What?
That's debatable.
Bro,
That's
This is
another
fucking
debate for
my
another day.
Sorry, my bad.
So
My bad for not
we're-
seeing it yet. Okay.
So
never doing
who
Evangelion, by
did
the way.
Bambi end up with? Did he like?
Thumper. It was a pretty controversial decision.
Yeah. Tony Chopper from One Piece.
little known fact, I actually did the soundtrack for that scene. It was great.
All right, where
I
were
said
we?
Bankai a few times.
Okay, so we were discussing the art style, and then we had talked about how Kat was liked the animation part of Mommy getting her head bit off.
Oh, right.
A1.
Yeah. I thought it was surprising. and it was weirdly nostalgic for me because I feel like I've seen the witch or whatever before in like memes in like some random anime Discord or whatever, where must not have gotten the reference back then, but now I know whenever I see that colorful looking little snake smiley face ghost clown thingy, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And now I will understand the reference that it's going for now. So I thought that was funny.
For the people who hadn't seen it, and if the first time you saw it, if you guys can remember, were you guys surprised that for 97% of the series, Madoka isn't a magical girl?
No, actually.
I was completely shocked. I said it to you in a message, and granted, I said it to you in like episode like 6, but I think my thoughts was still been the same at like episode 10. Well, up until I guess episode 10 when they actually show what happened and why she's not a magical girl. But I said to her, I was like, Madoka's not very magical in this show, is she?
Yeah.
And I said that to him after like the 6th episode, and sure enough, we find out that it's because Homura is preventing her from being one, or trying her best to keep her from being one, and this is like the timeline where she's actually succeeding. But I thought that was surprising, and I liked it though. I liked how it subverted our expectations. I'm not saying it's a subversion of the genre, but it's a subversion of our expectations.
I will say that the main character not being a magical girl is not a norm in a magical girl series. That is not a normal thing. Sailor Moon becomes one in the first 10 seconds of Sailor Moon, essentially. Like, I think it's in like 5 minutes into episode 1. A cat appears and is like, "You're a magical girl now, do this." And she's like, "Okay." Like,
so for me, I looked at it, and when I first looked at it, it was like, okay, so she's not a magical girl, and for like the first few episodes, I was like, okay, so Sayaka becomes one, for lustful reasons, and then I was like, okay, so there's obviously a reason that she could become one. Like, there's a reason, like, there's selfish reasons she could become one. There's like world bending reasons she could become one. But like in the end, like I think it was like episode when Mimi episode
Mommy.
4 when Mama
3.
Mommy
Mama.
fuck no,
When the blonde one.
after Mommy gets fucking
eaten out.
It's fucking bored.
That's not the term.
That's not the term.
That's not it.
I knew Kat would like that one. Sorry, my bad.
But after Mommy gets bored, in episode 4, when Madoka is reacting at home, I was like, okay, so she's probably not going to become a magical girl, because when she's reacting at home, she can't, like, she legitimately can't handle it. Looking at that, I was more like, okay, so she's either going to do this, like, she's either going to help with like emotional something with the people who have already become magical girls and somehow be like the integral part of it, or B, she's going to wait until the end of the series to become a magical girl for some weird reason, and she's going to be the strongest magical girl and blah 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 blah, and she's going to become a god. Like, I was right.
You were. And she also did try to be the integral, not magical friend too. So good call.
Yeah. I thought in regards to her not being a magical girl, I thought that was pardon me, I lost my train of thought. But I had something about like, god damn it. All right, can I continue? Somebody else. I lost it. Oh, god damn it.
I forgot what we were talking about.
So
I asked the people who had watched it for the. Oh, Happy, you want to go?
So jumping off of what Kat was saying, I think that's one of my biggest problems with Madoka as a character, is that she doesn't really do anything of importance until the very end, except for like whine. I feel
watch
like
and stand by.
I feel like she's restricted though. Like if somebody went back in time that many times to like prevent you from doing something, like
true, that's true. Yeah, Homer. Yeah, and Homer has like Homer literally like cock blocked Madoka at one point.
That's kind of
But-
true, though. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she
But-
shot Kyubey like 8 times.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, she did. But like,
But
people
oh, no.
get like on Shinji's case for being whiny, but at least he does stuff. Like Madoka doesn't do anything.
Well, but she does though. Like she went and tried to save
It's emotional
Hitomi.
support,
right?
Yeah, she's there for
Oh,
emotional
true.
support.
Okay,
That's the way I would look
you're
at
right.
it.
That's true. That's
And
true.
yeah, and she wanted to do like she was going to like learn how to be a magical girl, like and she wanted to do it to help people until mommy died. And I'm not on Shinji's case either. I think it's unfair that people complain about the 14-year-old kid having to get into a battle tank and fight other alien battle tanks for being a little emotionally distraught. You're allowed to do that, it turns out. But I
Yeah,
think
sure.
that I don't know. I don't think like I don't even think she whines. I think that she cries a lot because she is distraught and upset.
Yeah.
Her life is literally falling apart around her. She's been wrapped into like this sort of extra dimensional war type of thing. She's seeing her best friend like lose faith in herself and in the world that she lives in and eventually fall to despair. She saw one of her newest friends die. There's a lot going wrong in Madoka's little world. So, I think that she can cry and that's okay for me. As a little side note, I loved how supportive her parents were. I just feel like that doesn't happen a ton in anime, especially like magical girl anime. The parents are
just don't
usually not
exist.
there. Yeah.
Well, in anime in general, the parents don't.
In
exist.
anime in
Yeah.
general, exactly. Because normally they're not important characters versus that's where, and this can jump off onto the point that I just remembered that I had was like why my thought was why would Madoka become a magical girl when her life is already pretty good and she has no complaints, or she shouldn't theoretically have complaints. Like obviously there are stresses and things that go wrong in her life, but overall she has a happy life, or what you would say is a happy life. But yeah, so to jump off that, the parents are actually there, which is they're there though, and the reason why they usually aren't in anime is because they're not relevant to the story. But in this case, they are relevant because they are always there, supporting her, providing her with love and affection, and making sure, and especially her mother is making sure that she's giving her proper guidance through this difficult time in her life, which is I'd say would be symbolism for puberty, but which is what her mom thinks she's helping guide her through, when in reality she's helping her guide her through a universal changing experience almost. So that's where I enjoyed that use of parents a lot. And but I do think though that's something that we could probably talk about is why would Madoka actually become a magical girl like in this situation. Like I don't blame her for not for a whole, like there were times where she was about to, and I was like, you know what, I get why you're going to, but at the end of the day, especially after learning all the consequences, why the hell would you ever, for one, let your friend do it, which is why I think Homura is given a lot of crap, from my understanding at least, for what she does, and I don't get it at all. I think Homura was right. Like I know that's the meme, but I actually don't think Homura really did that much
Okay,
wrong.
well, we'll get into that later
We
because
can get into that later, but at least, especially in the original series, I guess is my point.
Haz is feeding the talk right now.
Oh, okay. The meme comes from Rebellion. Go, Haz.
I was gonna say that I think when we're talking about Madoka as a character too, to Happy's point, the fact that she isn't doing anything but she actively wants to, especially once you finish the series, it's probably like the most important thing that is going on, because the reason that I feel like we're assuming that all magical girls, we're presented magical girls as a really like desperate thing that people do. If you want to apply real world logic, like it could just be someone wants to help other people, right? Like there could be another Madoka out there. And I think the reason Madoka gets pushed is because, like we learn later on, the reason that the parents are in the picture and like you see everything as well as you see it is to further sort of the idea when they say like that change from happiness or like hope to despair, that energy that's created is what powers them. And Madoka is sort of being pushed as like she's the most hopeful or like happy. So when she eventually falls, like the risk of her falling, to me, like especially on a second watch, it's such a greater threat, and there's so much more tension to like the happier she gets and the closer she gets to being a magical girl. Like it's actually worse because whereas someone like Homura or who was that? I think it was Saki that became a witch.
Sayaka.
Sayaka.
Sayaka became a witch, right? Sayaka became a witch, but she wasn't really like a world-ending witch because Sayaka was already fucking depressed, right? She was already going through shit. So for her to go from like already depressed to like super witch depressed, it's a little bit, it's energy, but it's not Madoka the happy fucking perfect life till all my friends are fucking dead. So yeah, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like that's a pretty big change. It's one of those things too where it's like a second watch thing that kind of hits a little harder. I feel like on the first watch I could kind of understand it, but even then, it's kind of when you get to the end and you like think back on everything that's happened, like it makes it all make sense. You see all the actions that Homura was doing, not as like an asshole, like she just wanted to like stop the apocalypse, and I don't know. I fucked with it. I fucked with Madoka being bland because
No, I agree. I don't think she's even bland. Though. Like she actively goes in and risks her life to give Sayaka the emotional support she needs. Like, you know,
she's not bland. She's presented as such, but I think like you're throughout the series you're supposed to take note like she's fighting against that. She's pretty actively like, this isn't really like what I want to do. I want to be helping people. I want to be a more active part, but she's actively being denied. And I feel like that's
that's, you know what, fair, that is a fair point. Yeah, and I think maybe that's my big problem is that she's constantly trying, but because she keeps getting denied, it just comes across that, oh well, I guess she's not a very substantial character then, or something like that.
Yeah, I also think that like why you want to become a magical girl is like uh, all of them, I guess except for Mommy, had selfish wishes at least to some degree. Like maybe they weren't well thought through enough, but they all came from a good place. Kyoko wanted to help her dad, right? Sayaka debated for a long time if she was making the wish for herself or for Kyosuke, and she only decided to do it once she saw how much suffering Kyosuke was going through. So I feel like, she wanted to make sure that she was actually helping someone and not trying to get, credit. Homura obviously had some horrible, hellish Groundhog Day sort of situation thrust upon her in order to help her friend. So like, I mean, I don't know. I guess Pat sort of raises an interesting question about why Madoka would want to become a magical girl. But I think that almost any girl who was kind-hearted and wanted to help people would do it the way the Incubators presented it.
I think you could see that until that. I agree with that. Like anyone who's kind-hearted or has a thought would want, or yeah, I guess kind-hearted is the best way to put it. Like, anyone who's kind-hearted would want to do it, but once they figure out that in the end they're only being used by the Incubators, or the punishment,
for sure,
or the punishment for becoming a magical girl. Because at the end of the day, even I think you kind of realize this after like the third episode. The only thing waiting for you as a magical girl is death. So the whole idea that you get your one wish, but you are never going to see adulthood because you will die eventually, right? Like that, which I think, even though it's not stated, I think the girls understand that to some extent, that they are not going to survive this. So that's why their one wish must be so valuable. Like that's where I don't understand. I don't think there's a single wish where you sacrifice your entire life for, other than the only person who I think it made sense with was Mommy, because she was going to die anyways. So she had to take that opportunity to continue to survive, right? Like, as living is better than being dead, no matter in any context, right? Versus, well, in almost any context, but you get what I'm saying. Versus with Sayaka, yeah, what's his name? Kyosuke is suffering, but at the end of the day, he is still alive, right? So it is still an option for her to choose to become a magical girl. She doesn't have to choose, and like, it's kind-hearted for her to do so. But I think if you make this decision, even knowing what you will become, and knowing that that sure, your wish will be granted, but you will never ever be able to live a long, fulfilling life. That's where I got lost on some of the characters deciding to still become or grant these wishes.
So one of the things.
So can I go on a bit of a tangent?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Fire away.
So I believe it was either it was a drama CD or it was a PSP game where it was actually revealed that Kyosuke still would have accepted Sayaka even with like the soul gem thing. Like
Really?
he still loved her, essentially.
Yeah, but
So they kind of imply
is that
too.
canon,
One thing that we
or-
forgot. I don't know if it's canon.
I don't know if it's technically canon because it's like a spin-off game, but
Mhm. So another thing that they imply though is that she was there when the accident happened, right? I didn't catch it in Rebellion if they showed it, but
They didn't.
my understanding at least was that Sayaka was there, and she at a certain point she's questioning like, oh, why wasn't it me, or why did it have to be him instead of me? Because it was an accident, right? That lost Kyosuke his movement or his hand dexterity, whatever. So again, maybe I just missed it in Rebellion.
It's
But,
not. I always thought that, like, she thinks he is so talented and stuff, and she doesn't have a particularly high opinion on herself. So, like, I can see your interpretation. I don't even know if it's wrong, but I've always interpreted it as like, why did this happen to someone as great as him and not to someone like me?
That's how I
know?
viewed it too.
Because I thought I could have sworn when I was watching it, and of course this is one of the first few episodes too, where she says like, "Oh, this should have like, why couldn't I have been there instead of you?" Which yeah, that's a fair point. I didn't think about it that way. I can't remember if.
Yeah, I don't know if it
which-
literally meant like be physically
Could-
there,
it-
or like in the terms of sense
it-
like why
right.
why not a person like me? Why like a great person like him?
Right. No, I totally understand your point now, and it could also just be which translator did we have?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
That's something that totally could have an impact on how you read it, because the sentences could be read differently.
Yep.
And also,
So-
or they could have been translated the same, and we could have interpreted it differently. So I think that's fair.
I think it's open for
I
both.
also want to
I
point
think
something
Cat's
out.
trying to talk.
Go, Cat.
So one of the things that I really wanted to touch on is that after it's revealed that all of the witches are just basically magical girls that have fallen in despair. Like after I watched it the first time, I was like, oh, okay. And then it like started to then as I started to like watch more witches like appear and talk about this giant fucking witch, like I was like, huh, this is kind of cool. And then Sayaka's witch with the like with the music notes and everything, it makes me kind of want to go back and watch it again and like kind of look at the things that are going on inside of like the isolated space, because an isolated space basically becomes what their life is based around.
You
Like,
can
I
learn a
wanna-
lot about the girls from their labyrinths.
Yeah, and I want to see if I can do it like I want to see if I can do it like really quickly and just create a character profile for that person. Like that's just kind of one of those things that I just have an urge to do all of a sudden.
Yeah, so if you ever watch Rebellion, the witch Charlotte, which is the one that kills Mommy, is a character in the movie, like her as a magical girl, and that's possible because of a whole bunch of complicated stuff you won't understand unless you see the movie. But like there are some facts we know about her, like how much she loves cheese and stuff from like her labyrinth and everything. And there's a scene where Mommy calls herself the cheese, and it's really funny because we know that baby eats cheese and Mommy's the cheese. Anyways.
Yep.
But yeah, no, you can get a lot from them from the labyrinths.
Yeah, I think that the labyrinths were really cool. I liked that aspect a lot
Yeah.
of the storytelling and the I'm sure again I probably didn't catch it when I was watching it the first time. But all of the different labyrinths have I bet you could go back and say, "Oh, well this poor person was probably suffering from anxiety or this person was suffering from a fear of loneliness or something. Like you can go back probably and like label them based off of the each specific thing. I think that was cool. And then the last other thing I thought was very cool was how they tied it in with history. Maybe it's just because I'm a history major and I find this stuff so fascinating. But I thought it was cool how they showed like all the different magical girls, which is essentially so like the Alexander the Great, right? Like all the not Alexander, sorry. Fuck, what's her name?
Cleopatra.
Well, Cleopatra isn't another one.
Jean of Arc. Jean d'Arc.
John of Arc, thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry, I'm thinking of the
Joan
Fate
of Arc,
series.
not
All
Joan
the
of Arc.
yeah, no, but like all of the famous women in history, especially like from ancient times when women were not treated as equals as, or of course they probably still aren't today, but to the level that they are today. Like back then, I thought that was cool how they were like, oh well, yeah, they were magical girls. Like that was just such an interesting idea. Like oh we influenced human history by creating magical girls in their different time periods. I thought that was cool. I think they had one
Yeah.
where the girl was on the train to Warsaw or
Oh
to
my god, that was so sad. Yes.
that was bad. I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, that's depressing. Like I saw this golden star and I was just like, oh, I know what that means. Cleopatra, that was cool. Like all these different people in history. I was just like, oh, that's awesome to think about it that way.
In the gacha game, you can unlock Jeanne d'Arc, and she's a very strong magical girl.
I can only imagine that she is a strong magical girl, considering how strong she was in real life. So there you go. That's but again, sorry, that was a bit off topic, but I thought that was a cool.
Just to let you know, we've been going for
cool
about an
use.
hour, so I don't know if you want to do like another topic and then wrap up type of thing.
I was just gonna say we're probably going on too.
Oh, okay,
Just
goodness. Okay, so let's I didn't realize we were talking that long. Time flies when you're talking about
All
magical
right.
girl shows.
It
Okay,
only
so
it only applies for you.
well,
Yeah.
let's talk about the meme before we do best girl sort of stuff that we do. So
two memes:
the you want to hit the Kyubey one too?
Kyubey and Homura.
Homura. Okay, so let's talk about first. Let's do these in chronological order. Do we think that the incubators were like ethically wrong in their decision to fight entropy by harvesting the despair of young women?
Yes.
I
No.
think they're
Okay.
wrong. Yeah.
Does anyone think no?
I think no. Hold on, I have Haz muted. Haz, say something.
Hi.
There we
He
go.
was already talking when you said that.
What was your vote,
What?
Haz? Sorry, I had you muted.
I said no,
Okay, I also said no.
but that's a no pre-rebellion. Because rebellion incubators versus pre-rebellion are very different in my eyes. So,
I agree. I also agree with that. If we're only talking the show, I say no.
Yeah.
I think ethically, yes, they messed up or what? Sorry, what was the initial was like? Are they ethical?
Is it like ethically correct of them to fight
No.
entropy by harvesting the despair of young
I
women?
think the
is how
way
I
they
worded it.
I think yes, but the way they do it no, because
Fighting entropy good, fighting entropy that way bad.
correct.
Is my vibe.
That's
Like,
my vibe too.
Here's my thing. Like with entropy being, because long story short, I've had to research the possibilities of entropy for like 4 or 5 years for a book that I'm making. But
Sick plug.
the main
As I say,
Huh?
sick plug, yeah.
yeah.
Like, subscribe, make sure to
Wattpad.
comment.
But like the thing is, like with fighting magic, with having the magical girls fighting entropy, with their souls becoming witches and like creating energy to push entropy's like process back. It's kind of like, why wouldn't you just wish for like why wouldn't you just urge a magical girl to wish for entropy to stop its process? Because it's already been shown that Madoka, like she she actually becomes a fucking god and
So-
ends up like stopping entropy, kind of.
Well, she definitely does not stop entropy. She stops the process of stopping entropy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's also sort of addressed because, you know, the wishes that can be granted are based on the amount of energy that the hope to despair thing is going to produce. They're not actually unlimited wishes. It's that they are super advanced high-tech race, and our little human minds aren't going to wish for anything beyond that scope, sort of deal. He even talks to Madoka, Kyubey does, about how there is so much like karmic potential around her that she probably actually could wish for anything because of how much energy is there.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in like Pete and Haz's and I think maybe even Happy's thoughts on. I don't remember what Happy voted for. Like,
I said it was ethically wrong.
oh, okay, good. Proud of you, Happy. So Pete and Haz, I'm pretty interested in your take on that.
Okay, mine's very similar to if anyone has seen Hunter x Hunter, how like the main villain of Hunter x Hunter is Miriam, but in my opinion, he's not a villain, and this is kind of something very similar. And that's not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's just from their point of view, like what they're doing is like not that big of a deal in terms of the world, like the outcome. So like I'm viewing this through
the universe.
Yes, I'm viewing this through
yeah.
the eyes of Kyubey, and like
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's a
When
very
you're making an omelet, you gotta crack a couple eggs.
yeah, something like that. Like,
Okay,
yeah.
well, so Pete, I have a question for you then, Mr. Which I am on your train in this, but Tevin Gurren Lagann's masterpiece. I guess
Yes,
this
it
is
is.
sort of. I guess this is sort of spoilers.
Oh.
All right, sort of spoilers for this series, but like, you probably won't remember it by this point because it takes 26 episodes to get here. But so, do you think the people, the spirals, are evil for trying to prevent the rest of the world from ending essentially by having too much of an existence? Because like they're doing the same exact thing. That's the immediate thought I had
that's
while watching
different because the spirals
Is it?
the spirals literally want to genocide the entire human race if it gets above a certain like number.
Because that would cause
I don't want to get into a
problem in
I don't
the
want to get into a
universe.
Gurren Lagann debate, but
that's what the whole reasoning was,
no,
wasn't
okay.
it? That
The hive mind is bad. The king who tries to prevent the population from reaching that number is a good guy. I'll put that.
Right.
He's not a good guy, but he's like an antagonist. All right, that's all I'm talking about.
all right, anyway, but I just thought that was a fair point to make because that's the way I viewed it, and that was the first thought that came to my mind when they said, "Oh, entropy." Like, well, you're just a small grain.
Someone let Miles know it's okay to come back in.
You're good. You're good. Yeah, you were good. It really wasn't spoilery.
Okay. Well,
but it was, but it wasn't. But the whole point was that yeah, we're only just this small speck in the universe, right? Like we're this little tiny bit,
Yes.
like, and so ethically in their eyes, that makes it
They're probably
okay.
they're probably doing us a favor.
they're doing
They're doing the universe a favor.
the universe a favor. So that's I can see where that's coming from, but I don't see then how you can't think the same way about the characters in Gurren Lagann. That's where I get you're losing me there. I think it's
the
either one or
girls
the
have
other.
a choice. They always had a choice. They're never forced into. I mean, they're kind of forced. They're pushed. I'll say they're pushed into the
They're
situation.
very pushed into
But
this.
They're
situation.
manipulated.
But
They're so lied
they
to,
have a voice.
eventually.
They have a voice. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Kyubey did nothing wrong.
Okay.
Like if you have the chance to live with if you have the chance to live with a better life, with something that is shown as a better life and shown as something that you want at that time, and are a 12, 13-year-old girl that doesn't really have a brain large enough to comprehend everything.
That's sexist, but okay.
I think it's teenagerist, which is fair. Teenagers
Yeah.
are dumb.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
And they pray.
Well-
Yeah, Kyubey. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kyubey
who would
did
ever
nothing-
be a teenager, right?
Kyubey
Like,
did
who would
nothing wrong.
ever?
That's all I'm saying. Kyubey did nothing wrong.
Also, it feels like
Kyubey-
that's
Okay,
not a-
Kyubey as a character did nothing wrong, in my opinion. Because, But the incubators as a whole, yeah, that's kind of.
It's look, when it comes to the girls themselves, I feel like it's not fair to say that they didn't really comprehend, because at least from what I understand of, from what I remember of Kyoko in her introduction, and Saki and everyone else, right? It didn't sound to me like they became magical girls to become magical girls. They became magical girls for the wish, and it's they're making the best of it. Like they sound very, but whenever they talk about it, at least to me, they knew there was a trade-off. Like this wasn't the life that they necessarily wanted. They wanted the fucking wish.
Well,
right?
those two characters specifically, as opposed to, I would say, like Mommy and Homura, do talk about how Sayaka talks about how she wanted to become a magical girl so she could help people fight witches and do all of that. That's a part of hers. Kyoko talks initially about how that wasn't the case, but through her interactions with Sayaka, remembers that a very large part of the reason, part of it was to help her dad, but also she wanted to help people. She wanted to fight the witches. She wanted the lifestyle. She wanted to feel important and to do important things and have a way to positively affect the world through her actions. The life is, I think, in some ways sold a little glamorously, not entirely, and especially when Homer is around in like future timelines, being like, if you guys do this, I will murder you and your families. Like, like it's all the Homer alike. But, Mommy, I feel like it like warns them, but also desperately wants them to become magical girls because of how lonely she is, and she wants friends. So like, Mommy's a great character and everything, but like I feel like there's a little bit of pressure going on from her to like, join.
Very much.
She talks about how cool she wants to look in front of them and everything. Like, so I mean, I don't know. I think that they definitely have a choice, and they know it's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows, but I don't think they're aware of just how dark it actually is. Like how few sunshine and rainbows there are.
Well, I guess
Can you feel the sunshine? Does it brighten up your day?
I think like with certain characters, while especially for someone like Madoka, since Madoka goes the longest without being a magical girl, like to say, like maybe for Saki, right? Like maybe her, but by the time that like Madoka becomes a magical girl, like Mommy is dead, I'm pretty sure. Kyoko is out here hunting other magical girls and shit. Or something I forget what the fuck she was doing.
When Madoka becomes a magical girl, everyone besides Homura is dead.
Yeah, like, at this point, to me at least, like, Saki's the only person that I can see, and maybe Kyoko, but I don't remember too much about her, because I feel like Kyoko, at least from when we meet her, is someone who got her wish, and realized that the price that she paid for it wasn't worth it, and then she played into it, because when you meet her, like, she's really into this magical girl and like owning her area or some shit and like being the best, and then whatever the fuck it was, this territory war that goes on, it was really touched on briefly or something, but and it doesn't feel like that was the intent though. Like, so, she just wanted to wish.
I guess I would argue that the price, she was fine with the price for the wish, but so like her and Sayaka are like kind of opposites, where with Sayaka the price wasn't worth the wish, and for Kyoko she thought it was, but the wish wasn't what she wanted the wish to be. So Sayaka gets her wish, and the wish ends up working perfectly, and Kyosuke has a great life, and he gets to perform and stuff again, and Sayaka, the price Sayaka paid for it wasn't really worth it at the end for Sayaka. Like the magical girl life, she didn't really view it as worth it. And with Kyoko, she wanted her dad to be listened to, and that wish did happen. But along with that wish, it ended up like once her dad found out, it killed her entire family, right? Like he killed himself and her family.
Yeah.
And, you know, she liked the magical girl part. She was fine paying that price to make her dad happy. The issue was that her wish wasn't all it was cracked up to be. That's my take on it.
That's a fair say. I can see that. Yeah. But yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's enough of a split there, and then like the add-on choice with sort of like what Pete was saying, like everyone had a choice, whether it was heavily pushed or not. Which is and that's another thing, which is why I think Kyubey post Rebellion, like in Rebellion and the incubators and that, I do not defend them because there's no choice in that matter.
Yeah, they're just experimenting on someone.
They're experimenting on her, like that's fucked up, but that's not what was happening in Madoka Magica, this series. So.
Okay. In interest, I think we could talk about the ethics of this for a long time, and there's a lot of intricate stuff about it, and if we should even try to avoid the heat death of the universe. But in interest of time, let's move on to Homura. So Kat, unfortunately, you won't be able to participate in this. But what do we think about Homura at the end of Rebellion?
We should move this one along quickly too.
Yeah.
We are gonna run out of time.
What she essentially does is put the entire universe at risk, with no way to stop like the forces of the universe that are like the chaotic forces or whatever, in order to give Madoka and her friends a good high school experience, essentially.
So I'll go first with that one. So when Homura like splits Madoka in half, I immediately thought that she was doing it selfishly, and that was the first time I saw her as a villain instead of an anti-hero. But I fell in love with the character all the more because of it.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that.
A dark turn.
Yeah.
It's quite the dark turn. It's very like friendship, like power of friendship is bad, and I kind of love it. I think it's
like I like, in spite of the conversations we've had over this episode, I think that Madoka is still a little too black and white for her own good. But when Homura does that, it kind of makes me realize that, this didn't work out quite the way you planned, did it, Madoka? Or something like that.
Yeah. I think one problem that we have with this debate too, though, is that we sit back and we're like, if I was Madoka, I would be just like her and be upset, like if I found out that my friend saved me, or made my life, risked the universe's life or future for my life. Like, when in reality, most of us, I'll openly admit it, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, thank you so much, because at the end of the day, your life is the only thing that you are going to experience, right? Like it is your only time on Earth, or it's your only time in the universe. And I feel like I would be eternally grateful for Homura and what she did to make sure that I actually got to experience life, rather than not, even if it does end up risking the universe or the future of the universe. At the end of the day, I can't care, or I shouldn't care, because otherwise I just would not exist. That's the way I look at it.
Well, you have to put yourself, like, I'm not saying, like, maybe that's the right choice if, you're Homura's best friend, right? Like, if you're, or like, low-key, like, Yuri baited, with Homura. But, and by low-key, I mean, like, really high-key.
Yeah.
Really high.
Like,
really
super high.
Like, it's insanely high, yeah.
Yeah, like, not quite as high as Sayaka and Kyoko, but, like, one notch below there. I don't even know if Sayaka and Kyoko are Yuri baited. That might just be a thing. But anyways, like, Madoka doesn't want that. That's not what she wants. Like, Homura is telling, I guess in my opinion, that she knows better than Madoka. It's like, Madoka wants to sacrifice herself to do this. That is what she wants to do. She is happy doing it. She is not happy in this little isolated world. And so Homura needs to get over the fact that her friend doesn't want to do what she wants her friend to do with her life, is my take.
For me at least, it's Homura. What Homura did was wrong, but it's not like a strong wrong for me. And I think the at least the part that you're missing was the conversation I was talking about with Homura and fake Madoka, because it was at that moment like, it was at that moment, even though Homura knew it was fake to some extent, right? Because Madoka, in her world, I think this was after she talked to the incubators. Or maybe it was before. Either way, it doesn't matter, because Madoka's spirit, or whatever, with all of her memories gone, said that she would never leave Homura. And then when Homura found out that this is Madoka herself speaking, just without her memories of being a celestial being, right? It was like, well, then why the fuck did you? Like, that's her believing, because it really did come from Madoka's mouth that she wanted to be with Homura and them forever. That was what Madoka wanted. So it's weird. I think she did wrong, but I couldn't be sure about that just because of what Madoka herself was saying in both timelines, you know?
I get that. That's fair. My take on that is that Madoka, when she was everywhere, like she tells this at the end, like episode 12, right? She's like, you know, I'll always be with you, Homura. Like, even when you're not aware of it, I'm everywhere and every win.
Yep.
You know? And so, like, a little bit of that, I think, is like, in Madoka's mind, it's enough to just remember each other, sort of. And in Homura's mind, that's not enough.
I don't think it's enough. I personally don't think it's enough.
So, like, if you had a friend that wanted to move, like, across the country to go start a new job, and you really didn't want that to happen, would you kidnap them and tie him in a basement? Can you turn your camera over to the right? Can we just make sure that this isn't the case?
That this is just such an unfair analogy. That is a completely different. That is like the most.
You're right. The entire universe is at stake in this analogy.
That is not at all the same analogy. Like, if it was even close, I would entertain it. But for me, again, I don't care about the rest of the universe. I care about my friend, and I don't care if they're so self-sacrificing that they would give up their only chance at life and existence for the rest of the universe. I don't care. They could hate me for the rest of their lives. I would still sacrifice myself for them if I cared enough about, or sacrifice, risk, keyword risk sacrificing the universe for their existence, because if they were my best friend or someone I cared about that much, that's where I'm coming from.
We're also talking about the highest level of being, right? Like, if I'm kidnapping my friend, like, there's police that can get involved in that. Homura taking a piece of Madoka and risking the universe, there's no one higher than this. This is the highest level of, like, there's no risk to that. No one's gonna come and find her ass like, yo, what did you just do? I would definitely kidnap my friend if there was no police. What?
Alright, don't be friends
I don't even
with
think
Paz.
that's what I meant.
No, I think Pat's a great friend. He just said he would risk the universe for his friends. I'm very glad I'm friends with Pat. To be fair, if he like risked the universe to save me at some point, and then the universe falls apart, my last words to him will be like, "God damn it, man!" But if it works, I'll be very happy.
It was worth it, bro. It was worth it. I don't know. Again, I think that this is such a supernatural kind of conversation. Like, it's all just how you feel, and you know, some of us are good friends, and then there's others like Miles who would just not give a shit and say, "Fuck you, go die. I don't care. Don't exist. We can move on and exist in a universe without you. I will not care." Clearly, because
she does exist.
That's
it's
exactly
not like
what Miles is saying.
She has to make you that.
No.
Fair point.
All right, moving on to best girl.
Yeah, let's wrap
Pete,
this up.
did you have anything to say on the matter?
No, literally, like what Miles like took the words out of my mouth. Like what he said is my viewpoint. But we should wrap it up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so best girl, there's a lot of options. Worst girl, I guess there's also the exact same options. There's the magical girls, and then probably Madoka's mom, and I don't know if you really want to the teacher, if you're like really weird, if you're just like, I really love this. Oh, you know what I did? Just to defend the teacher, the bar scene with the mom and the teacher was really nice. I really liked that. Like, it showed that she was like actually like a really caring teacher and stuff. I thought that was good. Okay, anyways, best girl, worst girl, Kat, go.
20 seconds.
Best girl, shit. Best girl is probably gonna be Homura for me. Worst girl is probably gonna be Sayaka for me.
Okay, trash opinion. Pat, go.
Fuck you.
Pat. Okay. Best girl. I think I have to go with Homura as well. Because she's one for the homies, Homura. And then
Nice.
worst girl Kyubey. Can I say Kyubey for worst girl? No,
Sure,
that
I
doesn't
think they're
count.
technically
Kyubey-
genderless.
Kyubey is actually a boy, I think.
I
thought they were
don't think they're
genderless.
gendered.
I
Yeah.
thought they were genderless.
They
I
say
thought
he. They use male pronouns, so I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe
they did? Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
notice. But all right, then fine. I guess I don't know. Hitomi? No, but she's not the worst girl.
she's not worst girl.
Because she came out and said it. She just said what she was going to do.
Toby's a good friend, and Sayaka even realizes that. So
Yeah.
Kyubey has no gender.
I guess Kyoko then. Kyoko.
I think that's fair.
I didn't care too much for her.
She starts at a pretty low place, so even when she gets better,
Yeah.
it's sort of like, yeah.
She's
Okay.
mid. Yeah,
Um,
I don't understand the eating thing either. Do they have?
They do. She was poor and didn't have any food.
That's what. All right. Well, I guess that's explained in the original series too. I guess that's why she's always eating. But even then, it just seems weird to me that she eats an entire bag of apples.
I think it's she never had access to it, and now that she can get food, she snacks all the time. That's just
Even
my
though
guess.
she's actually just stealing because
That
she
sounds
actually
right.
doesn't have any money. They
Yes,
kind of address
yeah.
that too.
She lives in a burnt down church. Has best girl, worst girl, go.
Homura hits the only character in the show that I got really angry with, especially at the end. I was like, don't fucking do this, because now I have to be evil, and I like evil women. I like the demons. But worst girl is Saki. Saki sucks. She shouldn't exist. Someone should delete her.
Okay, technically not a character, and I've corrected you 3 times, so we're not going to count that as a vote against Sayaka. Happy go.
Okay, so I'm gonna say best girl Homura and worst girl, even though it's not all of her fault, Madoka. I'm sorry.
That's fair. You're allowed to have that
I
opinion.
think that's a fair opinion. Too.
Yeah, I get it.
I thought about it for a moment, and I was like, nah. I just
So my opinion is trash, but his isn't.
Well, you'll find out in a second. Pete, go.
Okay, mine's really funny because it varies from the movie to the show. The worst girl in the show is Sayaka, but then she's my best girl in the movie. And then my best girl in the show is Homura, but then she's my worst girl in the movie.
That's fun.
So by default, I'm gonna say Mommy is best girl.
Okay, so Sayaka Miki is the best girl. She's the best character ever. I love her. She is so pure and honest, and just tries to do the right thing, and it clearly doesn't work out for her. But my God, did she try? A for effort, Sayaka. Worst girl. You know what? I'm gonna give it to Mommy.
Wow.
All the girls in the show really, really like Mommy. And I don't know. She was fine. But I don't know. She kind of bullied them into becoming magical girls.
I think you can make that argument.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like all of them. I'm a huge fan of the show. But
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. Oh yes.
You wouldn't say.
Yeah, I am. It's crazy. Okay. So now that we've done that, and 3 of my trash co-hosts have picked Sayaka as worst girl, we will go on to our ratings and stuff. Kat, you know I love you. So we'll do our final impressions and ratings. We'll start to the right of me in my current thing. Kat, go ahead. Do we want to rate the movie and the show separately, real quick, or do we just want to?
How do you want to do that?
No.
Yes, most definitely.
What? Really? Oh, okay. I mean, well, we can do that, but I think
because I haven't seen it.
Okay, that's fair. Okay.
So what I would say is you can give a rating for both, but the only thing that's going to count in our little ratings tally is going to be the show. I think, because otherwise, how do you quantify that? I think that's tough unless you just take the average.
You
of
just do an
both, I guess.
overall, whatever.
The average take the average of
The 2.
yeah.
We can figure out the math whenever.
I'll figure it out
yeah,
right now. Go ahead, Pat.
So,
Give me scores or score.
My score for Madoka the show is it's a 6.
That's higher than you always do this thing, and 6s I feel low for the show, but you just you'll talk about a show, and I should get used to this. You're I just my favorite thing about this show, and it's a show about, I don't know, painting doors, and you're I really like the chair in the corner, and then you'll be anyways, the show was a 7 out of 10, and I'm expecting you to give every show a 2. It's just okay. So 6 out of 10.
It has to be really bad to get a 2,
so
I feel like.
the reason why I gave it is, so I like to lay into things, because some things I really genuinely want to get off my chest. But I don't normally talk about the things that I really, really like about the show because it's normally things that you guys already talk about.
That's a fair point too.
That's fair. Someone has to
And-
be the voice.
And so, like, I'm always the guy that's like, yo, first eight episodes were solid. Like, until like episode 9 through 12, it was a 5. Like, it was solid. And like it got high. I was thinking about rating it a 7, but like I just kind of scaled back because there
Okay.
were some things that I just couldn't that like you guys explained that I just kind of lowered down a little bit.
Okay, cool. If you ever get the chance to watch Rebellion, let us know if that affects your view on the series.
Gotcha.
Pat.
Me next? Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
sorry, I'm just going in the order on my screen.
Yeah, no, that works. I'll just have to bounce around my notes. I am giving both the score of an 8 out of 10, the show and the movie. I enjoyed the series a lot more than I honestly expected to, even though I've heard so much good things about it. It still is a magical girl show, and a weird one at that, or a non-normal magical girl show, I guess, if you will. But I think it had a lot of qualities that I really enjoyed about it, and again, I couldn't put it down. But there were still its flaws, and again, it not being my taste is probably why it's not a higher rating. I think 8 out of 10 is a perfect place for it for me because that's higher than I give most shows. To be fair, at the same time. So yeah, critically, I give it a solid.
Awesome. Has.
So we're doing one rating for both, right?
One for each or one for both. Just do whatever you want, man.
So for the main show, yeah, I liked it. I feel like pretty much my thing is it was very straightforward to me, and I did enjoy it because it's still, for being so straightforward, it had a lot of twists in it, but it wasn't anything like I was super invested in like I feel you are. So I'm gonna give it like a 6. Like Cat, I thought it was good. It was okay. The movie, on the other hand, if it wasn't for our pre-show discussion where you cleared up how we got from the series to the movie, it probably would have been like a 3. But now it's like a 7 or an 8. It's an 8.
What is it? It's an 8? Okay, thank you.
So 7 overall then. 6.
Yeah. 7 overall.
Oh, so that's an easier way to do it, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. 7 out of 10 for Has. There we go.
Happy.
So who was around on the Anime Out of Context Discord server when I dropped my hot take on Madoka Magica?
I didn't catch it because I intentionally avoided it because I hadn't seen it yet.
I don't know either.
Okay.
Drop
Well,
it. Drop the hot
so it was originally a 6 for me, but after having watched it again, both are getting bumped up to a 9.
Nice.
But that is, I feel like you need to have the whole show. Otherwise, it's not perfect, just in parts. You need the whole thing to fully appreciate it, and that includes Rebellion, I feel.
take. I think that's a fair way to look at it.
Like what Cal was saying about how like the first part was like a 5 to him. I can see kind of where he's coming from because I think we made a mistake having this right on the heels of Brimgar, because I was starting watching it and one of the things I quickly realized was, oh, there's a lot of talking. And I'm like, like if this had been my first watch, I might have legit dropped it. If I
agree.
didn't know what I was getting into.
Yeah, it definitely the show in terms of quality just continued to rise. I would say throughout it. I think that makes sense. Because I agree. The first few episodes were a lot more boring. Well, I don't even know if boring's the right word, but just they didn't interest me as much as by the end of it I was on the edge of my seat. So I think that's a very fair analogy to use.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. I think that it follows similar pacing to Grimgar, to be honest, without the 7-minute musical interlude.
Yes, thank God.
Which I loved, but most people hated. Pete, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I watched Madoka about a month ago, tied in, and then started the movie today. I think how the movie tied in with the show really made it what it was. I think critically, this is like a show that you could study from a whole bunch of different aspects, whether from directing or art or music. Like, we didn't even talk about like the OPs and the EDs, and they're great. Oh, they're so iconic. Especially the ED is so like grim and dark. Oh, I love the ED of Madoka Magica. I think the show is absolutely genius. I thought the movie was perfect. I'm giving it a 10.
Both of them?
For both?
9 for the show, 10 for the movie, but I think overall, since that's like a 9.5, I'd rather give it a 10 than a 9. I thought the movie was near perfect. I absolutely enjoyed every second of the movie.
Yeah. So, really quick, people who had seen it for the first time, the ED switch from 2 to 3, when Mommy dies, and then it just goes straight into Magia. It's like a super dark
so
ED.
Good.
Did that hit anyone?
Yes, it's so good.
I was really confused by it, but I didn't like that ED that much. I didn't have an interest.
It's not like
I
musically,
like
but it's just like the power of
Dude,
the.
it fits it perfectly.
So
I understand that it fit perfectly, but I didn't enjoy it. Like enjoy it in a sense, like I didn't enjoy the music. So I get, but at the same time, like looking at it, like, yeah, that was cool or that was smart.
ED3 is my favorite.
So for me, like when I was listening to the ED, because like it was already spoiled for me that something was gonna happen on episode 3. So I was like, okay, because I didn't really listen to the EDs because I just really wanted to binge through it and I watched it and I was like, okay, that happened. And then I went back and watched the ED for episode 2 and I was like, I don't really like either of these. I'm just gonna stop wasting my time and go to the series.
Okay.
And it was just kind of like, eh.
Wow.
So
you watch anime openings in 2020? Fucking slow. Couldn't be me.
Yeah, but you hate anime, so it's whatever.
Connect is really good. So for my ratings, the first time I watched this, I gave the show a 9, and then like 2 or 3 years later, I watched Rebellion and missed a bunch of stuff because I hadn't watched the show in 3 years, and gave it an 8. I'm bumping up Rebellion to a 10, and I think I'm going to keep the show at a 9. But I'd say, like, as a package, it's definitely a 10. Like, if they were all the same
So
thing.
my question for you would be, why isn't the show a 10? Because this is something that you've raved about.
Yeah, I mean, I love the show.
So what's holding it back from being a 10? Because like I could say the same thing. Like, I guess for me, so like Bunny Girl Senpai is a show that I'll rave about for however long. However, I can sit there and say, okay, well, sometimes the animation's lazy, sometimes this is like, so like, what is the specific reason why you haven't given it a 10?
To me, and this is honestly up in the air, but it was sort of like the ending. The first time I watched the show without Rebellion, the ending was like, I don't think I necessarily like exactly how the ending unfolds with and I know it's sort of set up, but it's sort of like a Deus Ex Madoka kinda, as a little pun there, where
Oh my god.
she just sort of, the problems get fixed for the most part.
Exactly.
And there isn't, the resolution isn't very climactic. I think it's good, but it's just not. I feel like the show doesn't really have a climax, sort of. Like Homura fails to defeat, Verpa Snatch, German word I can't pronounce. Madoka comes in and is like, don't worry, I thought of the perfect witch for this scenario, and uses it. Now, honestly, some of those issues are assuaged with Rebellion. So that's why I think the package is a 10.
Yeah.
But if I'm just looking at the show, it's a 9. But I'm going to put Rebellion up to a 10 because there's a lot of connections there that I missed. And honestly, if you ask me tomorrow, I might. You know what? Fuck it. Madoka's a 10. I gave fucking Grimgar a 9. Madoka is better than Grimgar. Jesus Christ.
I was also thinking.
I don't know. I'm going to have to recalibrate my entire self, but they're both 10s.
I think you're going through the phase where you give.
So we both agree that you rating things correctly right now, right?
Did I rate things incorrectly? Well, I don't think I rate things incorrectly. Before I gave the Grimgar rating, I said I was high off of the discussion, was going to give it an 8, but my argument was so good that I was going to give it a 9. So realistically, what's going to happen is in a month from now, I'm going to look at my
You're
Mal
gonna-
and bump my Grimgar down to an 8.
Mhm.
But I still think Madoka probably could get a 10 very easily.
I think you're gonna go through
Yeah.
the thing that all of us go through at some point in our anime journey, is where we sit there and we're like, oh man, I gave way too many things like an 8, which I'm not saying you're gonna do with Madoka, but I think you will do that with Grimgar.
Oh,
where you're just sitting there and you're like, man,
I'm going
I
to do that
really
with Grimgar 100%. I
Exactly.
just thought I
Yeah,
had a
probably.
really good episode, so I was like
Mhm.
really high on the show. I had
Absolutely.
just spent 2 hours defending it.
No,
So-
no, that's absolutely fine. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just think that's something that all of us can relate to, at least at some point, whether that's quitting anime completely like Haz did for a while, or if that's us sitting back and saying, you know what? So, like, an example in my case, all right, well, you know what? Toradora wasn't really that perfect. So there we go. All right, moving on. Anyways, we're
you're
just
wrong.
Imagine rating things so high that you go back into your ratings and like, I'm gonna bring it down.
I think that's okay though. I'd rather rate something too high at first and then think about it then as it sits more with me, realize, oh well, you know what, it didn't do this as well as something else I've recently seen, or
I wish
whatever.
there were 0.5s. So many things
I-
could get 0.5s in my
I
opinion.
think it's a good thing though that there's not 0.5s, because otherwise then it would be so hard to dispute scores, and it would be so hard to, like, I think that
You
the
like
distinction-
the strong cutoff, like you have to make that decision.
yeah, because like a 7.5 is it's such an easy thing to give, is a 7.5, like, because there's so many times where I'm saying, oh, is this a show a 7 or an 8? It's like, if I had a 7.5, pretty much every 7 or 8 would be a 7.5, like they would all collapse on themselves. So I think it's a good thing to have
True.
the hard cutoff. But anyways, we are going slightly off topic, but that's okay. But moving on, I guess that wraps up our discussion. Our final score, which again, this was taking the averages of the person's scores and then averaging that out between the 6 of us. Our score for Madoka Magica is an 8.33 out of 10.
That's right around where it is on Mal. So
yeah, that's
8.36.
Yeah, or an 8.39 I have on Mal for the
8.9.
yes, for the original series. So that's and I believe the movie's almost exactly at the same
It's
point.
just a smidge higher. It's like
Smidge higher.
8.44 or something.
Yeah, something
it's
like
that
that.
like sequel boost that things get.
Yep.
Yep. So there we go. So that's the thing, and that's interesting too, because that's about as close as we could get to being right on the dot with them, with like our limited number system. Compared to 512,000 users, there's 6 of us here. So I think that's pretty damn good, or pretty interesting to see at least. Just looking at Mal real quick, it's interesting seeing the top 3 reviews are all 10s. You don't usually see that in shows, even in cult classics. Usually it's like the top reviews a 9, or the top reviews an 8, and then there's a couple 10s, and then there's a couple 4s or whatever. But this one, it's straight 10s right down the board. I think that's very interesting. That speaks to the amount of value that people find in the show, I think it rightfully deserves as well. But now we get to move on. What?
Let's move on. We
3.
need to wrap it up.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
We'll
yeah,
wrap it up.
exactly. Moving on. Let's move on to our nomination, or what is winning our nomination for next week. Miles, take it away, bud.
Yes. So we had no ties this week. We have shows coming in at before legacy points 10, 11, 12 points, and we have our first legacy point winner. So we'll get into that. So our third place show this week was Japan Sinks, which appears to be quite controversial of a show. In second place, we have losing by 1 point, Land of the Lustrous, House no Kuni. And after a long journey, perhaps Pat made a magical girl contract.
I made a wish.
Yes, he did.
Yes, I did. I
Can't
might
wait
have.
for this to come back and bite him somehow. We will be watching Tada-kun Never Falls in Love.
Yes, let's go. It's about time. You guys are gonna enjoy the voice acting so much. I think I can't wait. Oh, it's gonna be great. Finally get to win one.
So, shows for next week. We're gonna have a smaller list, which should make the voting interesting.
Yes.
What do you guys want to nominate? Kat, you're gonna re-up it. You've come in second now.
You know that I'm gonna re-up it. Like,
I'm feeling
I've
good
got
about
to.
it.
I think I have to vote for it now that Kat's vote kind of.
You have to. You are obligated
Those are the
to.
rules.
I think I have voted for it too the past few weeks. To be fair, I think I have had
It's
it.
such a good show.
Yeah, it's very highly rated. I've been voting for it. Pat's been a little upset because it took the top spot from Tadakun from me for like the last couple of weeks. I had bumped Tadakun down to second, and I started voting for. I've been voting for. Not to show my biases or anything, but I've been really wanting to watch that. Okay, so same show from you. Has what's up?
What was your show from last week too?
My
He had Girls Bravo, right?
No, that was Adam.
Were you Chivalry of a Failed Knight?
Yeah. Not doing that again. I think for this week, I had one that I wanted, but I'm gonna wait on it. So I'm gonna put up Lord Marksman and Vanitas, which is like a fantasy ecchi.
I've never heard of it.
Never heard of it either.
Alternate timeline Europe.
Okay.
Ooh, I love shit like that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
The same universe as
Princess Principal.
Princess Principal, yeah. Happy, what's your show?
So, quick question before my show. You said that Land of the Lustrous lost by 1 point.
Yes.
Okay, so you realize that when I voted for Tadakun in third place, which means that was the 1 point that got it ahead, I assume?
It might have been.
Well, it was 1 point behind, but the legacy points bumped it up. So if you want to look at it that way, yes.
Oh, okay.
Every point mattered though, so I'm not gonna.
Well, I didn't do this service. It was a tie, and our tiebreaker is the amount of legacy points you have. So they both got 13 points, but because Tadakun has been on the list longer, it got to go. Which is unfortunate because I think the show that's been on the list the second longest is House of No Kuni. So,
yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah,
that's what I get for sticking with it, though. So there we
go. It would have won if
you had not voted, if we had not reminded you to vote.
Yeah,
he sabotaged himself.
We would be watching it.
Oh, actually, if you had not voted, I think we would be watching Japan Sinks. So
okay, so we're good.
Yeah.
That's actually right. He's right. We would have been watching Japan Sinks.
Because so when we were going into we got like 4 people vote in the last minute. So House of No Kuni was winning, and then we had like 2 people vote or whatever, and then I think like Japan Sinks. I don't know. There was like at one point Japan in the last 3 votes the winner changed 3 times. It was it was pretty crazy. Happy your show though.
So the problem is that we only do like the shorter ones, and there are so many like ones that I want to talk about that are longer. So it's hard for me. Like I would love to. It would be a interesting episode, but I would love to do Evangelion with you guys at one point. But it's like 26 episodes.
That's a long show.
In a movie.
It is a movie. Yeah. So
no one
could we theoretically do the new movies, the Reloaded or whatever they're called?
The rebuild. Maybe when the last rebuild comes out, we can pitch that as an episode.
I wouldn't mind doing that. It's just that they're like none of them are on digital platforms, so
they're all on YouTube for free in exactly Japanese with no subtitles. So if we all learn Japanese,
those got taken off. Those got taken down. Miles.
Never mind.
Yeah, you idiot. Everyone knew that.
They're on YouTube for a while, but then boof. So,
but either way, Happy, give us a show. Give us a show. Just look at your mail real quick. Give us something.
Fine. Okay.
On the spot. Let's go.
We're gonna give you time, Pete. What's your show?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've been on like a movie binge, and so I would like to recommend. I think maybe our first movie. I would like to recommend The Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
Oh, okay. Oh, God, that's so good. Look at Kat. Cat's like, God damn it, why did you? Oh, God, Cat's so mad because he was like, it's my week to win. It's finally my time. And then Pete's like, what about this modern classic? What about like one of the best anime movies of all time? Why don't we just throw that down? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw your name out there. Yeah, let me do that. That'd be unfair.
Okay,
Happy you got one?
Casablanca, the anime.
Yeah.
I have one. I'm gonna just do My Neighbor Totoro.
Okay, sure.
It's a good movie. It's a good
great
pick, I think.
Yeah. Excuse me. Not that you heard me sneeze. I think that's a good one too. I haven't actually seen it either, so I do need to catch up. I am behind on Ghibli. I have to say, it's the one genre or the culture, I guess, that I've just missed out on. But I guess so. It's that all that leaves is me, and I am split.
And
Between
Miles.
And me.
Oh, and you too, right? But you're the one leading the discussion, so I think that
Okay, so
I
yes,
should
you're
go right.
go ahead.
Oh God, man. I want to do a show from 1999, but I don't know where I could find it legally. So instead, just and that show was Now and Then Here and Now and Then Here and There. I've just heard about
the
this show.
isekai.
Yes,
90s,
it's like
yeah.
the 1999 isekai, essentially, right?
Yep.
I
Is that
would
not on
love to do that.
Funimation?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think so.
It's a very hard show to find. So instead, what I'm going to do is a show that's a lot easier to find, something that I've been told that I need to watch, and seems to be like, I don't know, an essential watch. I'm going to do Elfen Lied, as the show from 2004
Nice.
that has some messed up stuff, but somehow is still on Crunchyroll. So I'm excited to hopefully
The
try to watch
Gas Pack. That's the best nomination here. You're a fucking god.
Oh, I wonder who has this voting for next week. That's good.
That's good. So that's a good one.
I almost won.
I got you.
won.
Yeah, don't worry. I got
shouldn't
you,
have
buddy.
voted
You're gonna. I still feel you can't. Okay, so I'm gonna throw out a movie that I don't think is.
No, you don't feel us. You've won like 4 times. You don't feel us.
Yeah.
But anyways, continue.
Anyways.
He's trying to be humble.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna follow in the trend of the movies. I'm gonna throw out Paprika.
Okay.
I think that just seems really cool. And kind of neat. But maybe I'll keep it on long enough. But it just seems cool.
Oh, so you're taking off the second or I guess third place Japan Sings.
Well, what I said last week was that if it didn't win, I was just going to watch it. So
that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good plan.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
That wraps it up.
So those are our nominations. We'll post them. We'll have links to everywhere that you can find links normally with podcasts or with discussions and stuff. Join our Discord if you want to join us for more discussions. We talk. We fling the shit back and forth all week long or in between sessions. So please join us. It's a lot of fun. We talk about seasonals. We talk about other things. There are other group members too that weren't here tonight that we are all friendly with. Everyone gets along. And I can't thank these guys enough for being my friend and being my friends and being people that I can talk to about anime in such a fashion, I guess. So I don't know. I guess that wraps up our part. And one last thanks to Pete as well for giving us the platform to do something like this. Miles and I are in debt to you forever. So thank you.
I wouldn't say that much, but
I would sacrifice the universe for you, Pete.
Wow.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Exactly. See, he doesn't even agree.
I've come around.
Yeah, he's come around to it. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
I'm
it.
still salty.
But this is
so salty.
This is a long ass episode. So if you've made it this far, thank you for watching or listening
Yeah.
wherever you're watching. I'm gonna post our Discord link in the comments below. Follow us on Twitter. What do you say, Annie? That's what you say, ANI on Twitter to stay up to date information on the podcast. Join the Discord. This watch club is open to anybody and everybody. If you just want to discuss or whatever, come on, join in. You can vote. You can discuss. You can do whatever. You can post memes. I don't really care. It's a great little community we got. I'm loving it. But thank you so much for watching. Tune in next week to our next round of our Anime Duel of the Decade. That's something super fun. Other than that, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.